Hi, this is the sixth video clip that is related to how to program in the Scratch programming environment. So right now we have a fairly usable program where Scratch will follow the mouse pointer and leave a trace behind. But we, at this point, we want to make the program even better. In other words, we want to control the program so that we can have, maybe other sprites running around and have this sprite to interact with some of the other sprites. The first thing we want to do is we want to use the stage to clear the stage itself. So we go to the stage, go to pen, and then or go to control first, and then say when the green flag is clicked, then go to the pen tab and select clear. So this way the stage itself is responsible of clearing itself, and then we can take that code away from sprite here. So we go back to the sprite program, and we have to take away this little clear action item in the program. But you can't really just do that really easily because when you drag that thing around, it will drag the entire block from clear and down. And that's the only way to do it. You have to separate this block and then separate the block below clear, like so. So this way I have just isolated the action item that I want to remove. So now I can move it onto the left-hand side, which is deleting it. And then I can reconnect the rest of the program back to the first part of the program. And this is how you remove a particular action item from a Scratch program. It's not very intuitive, but this is the only way to do it if we were to make the programming interface as simple as possible. So the next thing we want to do is to create a new sprite. You can create a new sprite just by clicking this icon here, so you can paint a new sprite. You can also choose a new sprite from a file if you already have sprite files. Or you can get a surprise sprite, but in this case, it just gives me the same thing again. So I can go ahead and just click Paint New Sprite. And this is the interface to paint a new sprite. You can use import to import a bitmap to become your new sprite, or you can use these tools to help yourself draw a new sprite. So for the purpose of this program, we're not going to do anything fancy. I will just go ahead and use a paintbrush and draw an arrow to become the sprite. Now it is important to remember your sprite has a direction. In other words, it's pointing to a particular direction. The default is it's pointing to the east direction or the right hand side. So if I were to draw an arrow indicating which way it's heading or which way it's pointing at, I would have to draw the arrow so that it points to the right hand side, because otherwise the actual direction of the sprite and the indicated direction will not match. So I would just go ahead and say, okay, this is good enough, and I'm going to save it as my new sprite. So my new sprite is just an arrow. It's not really particularly interesting, but it will still illustrate certain things that we can do. So right now you can see that the script is empty because I have just selected sprite 2 instead of sprite 1. If you click sprite 1, the program will still be there, but if you click sprite 2, it is a brand new sprite. It does not have a program running just yet. So what we'll do with sprite 2 is just to make it point to sprite 1. So once again, we'll use when green flag is clicked as the first step here, and then we go to motion. Oh, excuse me, we have to go back to control, select a forever loop, like so, attach it to the first block here, and then go to motion and simply make the new sprite, the arrow, point toward. Now in this case I have two choices, because I can make it point to the mouse pointer again, or I can just make it point to sprite 1. In this case, let's just make it point to sprite 1. The more objects you add to the programming environment, the more choices you have as to where to point it to. And at this point, we can run the program and see what it does. Okay, so we click the green flag here, and you can see the black arrow is it will keep pointing at the first sprite, which is the little cat icon here. And it's kind of fun, but we haven't really added a whole lot of new logic here. So we'll go ahead and stop the program by clicking the stop button. And what we'll do in this case is we'll do two things. One, we'll try to animate sprite 1. So we go back to sprite 1, and then we'll go ahead and animate it. The way we animate sprite 1 is to make it change costume for every single, for every other move operation. So we go to looks here, and then there's an action called next costume. And we can drag that item and put it right at the end of move 10 steps. And this is at the end of move 10 steps. We release it and drop it in. And let's go ahead and run the program again. And you can see that this time, we have a little bit of animation here. So it is almost as if Scratch is walking around in very small steps. Okay, so that's kind of cool. And let's stop this program. And then the second thing we can also add to this program is for sprite 2 to detect whether sprite 1, the cat, is at the arrow. Okay, and we can do that by using a conditional statement again. So we can go to control and specify if, put it inside the forever loop, like so. And then inside the loop here, we can use a speech bubble and say, oh, the cat is getting too close, or it is touching the arrow. So right here, we can go to looks and then click say hello for 2 seconds, drag that over so that it is now inside the conditional statement. But instead of saying hello, we'll basically say touching. And instead of making it display for 2 seconds, let's make it display only for 1 second. And then the condition here, oops, I clicked the wrong button. Let's stop it. So let's go ahead and specify what goes into the condition. For the condition, we can go to sensing. And in this case, we can select touching something, question mark, and drag it into the hexagon here. And then we can specify touching sprite 1. So when sprite 1 touches the pointer, this message will appear. It will basically have a speech bubble and say touching, and then for 1 second, and then the speech bubble will go away. All right, so let's go ahead and run this program again. And we have the same program as before, and you can see that whenever this cat runs into the pointer, it will display touching. And the speech bubble in this case is associated with the pointer itself, not with the cat. Okay, so you can see that it's pretty easy to make the sprites interact with each other. And you can also see that in this case, I have 2 sprites or 2 programs running concurrently, running at the same time. One is sprite 1 and one is sprite 2. The 2 programs are for the most part completely independent and they run in parallel, but you can also use specific constructs so that these 2 sprites can interact with each other. Thank you for watching. This is video clip number 6 regarding how to program in the Scratch programming environment.